The Southern Hills is a suburban section of South Shreveport. Probably a middle income, low crime area. Friendly people, got along, liked each other. It was surprising that something happened in this type of neighborhood.
A neighbor noticed the newspapers were piling up in the driveway at the house across the street. And the cars hadn't seemed to move. So the neighbor, curious about potentially something being wrong, went over and looked through the window, and what he saw shocked him. There was a pool of blood on the living room floor.
Okay, we're looking around.
When detectives first walked through the door, it's just an absolutely horrific scene. In the living room, they find 8-year-old Sean Grissom. He's in a position that looks like his hands were behind his back at some point.
The little boy stabbed with such fury and force till the knife went through his body into the floor a few inches. This stuff stuck in my mind. I've not been able to get rid of even to this day.
Moving on, they find Tom Grissom in the utility room lying on his stomach. He's got a stab wound to the lower back. They move down the hallway to the back bedroom, and they find Julie Grissom lying on the bed, and she has a number of stab wounds to the back, but she's lying on her back.
The girl had been sexually assaulted and killed with a large knife. That's not a burglar. That's not a burglar. Most of your burglars are not killers. If they get caught, they just run. This is a heartless kind of crime. A triple homicide. Three people dead at once. It was unbelievable. I went outside and cried. I hate that the young girl got killed and the man got killed. But that little boy, he's just 8 years old. How could you do that? How could you have so much evil in you to kill some little child like that?
Danny Rolling's father, James, was a police officer, and Danny told me that his father at times was his hero, but at the same time he was, quote, a cold-hearted bastard.
Dad had to have control over every aspect of our life, every thought, we weren't allowed to have an individuality in the Rolling home.
When his father came home and took off that police uniform, he expected to have dinner on the table and for everybody else to just let him alone.
Danny was always trying to make his father happy, but he never could.
One of the things that we learn in just basic psychology is when you don't get the reinforcement from something positive, individuals, and Danny was one of them, would start engaging in behavior that he'd get attention for, but it was not positive attention.
He would act out, cause a scene. It got to the point he couldn't go anywhere.
When James corrected Danny, it was always harsh. He got after him with a belt, and he left marks.
Danny said his father was very unpredictable.
Danny got a puppy one time. I think he just found it. went to school, I think it was, and when he came in that afternoon, he ran out in the backyard and he asked his daddy, "Where's my puppy?" And his father walks up and shows him a hole in the ground. He had killed it. Whatever Danny had at that time to make Danny happy, Mr. Rawlings would destroy it.
And so we have Danny always fearing when his father or how his father is going to react.
Detectives, when they are examining this crime scene, they're clearly examining the bodies. Sean, the 8-year-old, is fully clothed. Tom Grissom is also fully clothed. But Julie Grissom is nude, and her clothes have been cut off and removed from her. It looks like Julie is the target of this case.
She was posed on the bed in a certain position.
They also noticed tape residue on Julie. At some point, both of her wrists were bound together and there was duct tape over her mouth. So whoever did this has taken the tape with them.
So apparently they had some knowledge of what detectives look for in a crime scene.
When you see an offender like this who is engaging in sexual assault and then has a very definite ritualized behavior in essentially the posing of the victim, I'm seeing a sexual sadist. And those kinds of offenders are very dangerous because they engage in a lot of planning and are forensically astute.
It looks like the kind of person that could kill again, too. It's all the markings of a serial killer.
Home was not a safe place for me. The night, it held a place where I could go and I could feel at ease.
When he was about 9 years old, Danny started roaming the streets to get away from the home. He started looking in windows and saw a family of 4 eating dinner together and started to fantasize that he was inside, just to become part of someone else's family.
He was always looking for somewhere to feel welcome because he acted so strange. He didn't know how to act around normal people.
One night, he happened to come across a house where he observed a female who had just come out of his shower. That was the first time that he got some sexual gratification and aroused. He went back to that same house, I believe the next night, because it was so exciting to him. And then this became the pattern after that. He's clearly progressing, going from one relatively benign event to the beginnings of becoming a sex offender. Danny had seen Julie, and he followed her home.
Danny is wearing a mask, and he's got a large military knife. So he's a very terrifying character. He walks Tom, the 55-year-old father, into the utility room, and he stabs Tom in the back. He moves Julie to the bedroom, and then he dispatches Sean, the 8-year-old,
I asked him years later, why did you feel a need to kill the father and the young child? And Danny told me because they were in the way.
Now he was in the position that he wanted. He had Julie in the bedroom by herself.
He cut off her clothes and her underwear, and that's when he sexually assaulted her. And he got some kind of gratification from being able to have her afraid of him rather than the usual, that he was always intimidated by his father.
And then he basically rolled her onto her stomach and then stabs her in the back. He wasn't panicked, he was careful, and he's a lifelong peeper and prowler.
He told me that he was proud of what he did.
We know that things that happen in your young life come back and form part of your personality.
The sexual disorder is what we call voyeurism, and it's of a severe nature. It almost became a compulsion with him.
His appetite couldn't be sated until such time as he began to commit the murders.
Danny chose the most abject, horrible way that these people could die. And he was fine with it because it made Danny feel like he was the one in control.
It is ordered and adjudged that the defendant, Danny Harold Rawling, is hereby sentenced to death.
All of these crimes warranted the death penalty. It was that heinous.